Now, the reason why we're kind of filming this today and kind of going through it is because it's not often you will ink traditionally with nibs and brushes.
Well, that's correct.
So you're usually doing digital now.
Yeah.
I suppose out of using digital, I mean, do you enjoy going back and using the traditional method?
At first I didn't. It was actually a bit of a struggle because my eyesight had changed and it was hard to see the page and things like that.
Yep.
But now I've actually got better at it and I'm more comfortable. But it does take a little bit of getting used to, but now that I've been doing a few pages, I'm back to being comfortable again, which is a good place to be.
So I must admit, I've been nervous to approach using brush and nib purely because I think I'll stuff it up. And it's kind of good to see technique, because you mentioned earlier that you're going to be using or going back to fill the nib itself from the well. And that would change depending on the stroke, I imagine.
Yeah, so a thicker stroke's going to use up more ink, and so then you're going to go back. And as something that I really would like people to be aware of, when we talk to people at conventions, it's really hard for them to understand how many times you're going back and forth. See, I goofed that line because I was just going to straighten it up. How many times you have to go back and forth to the inkwell. See, I've run out, so I can't do any more, so I've got to come back. When you're on a computer, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And this, you've got to be very mindful of when you're going to run out and not have too much, because then you might have a big splurt, and not too little, because you're going to run out. So you've got to balance it all. And that juggle is something I had to get back into the rhythm with when I started up again.
Yep.
This is all going off, just so you know, this is it ends about here, but I'm just going off the page, so I'm not so worried about the stuff up in this corner. See, I ran out of ink then. So I have to come back, fill it up, make sure there's not too much.
So I'm not sure if we've talked about this earlier, but was there a main reason for going back to traditional on this?
Brandon really wanted to have me do it. I don't know quite. I think he just loves seeing my old style, so to speak. So I think he was the main reason. He was really interested in seeing me do that again, and kind of, quietly nudging me in that direction. And I wasn't sure at first, because I was, I'm going the new way. I want to keep going that way. But then I realised for this particular project, it needed to be done quickly.
Yeah.
So I couldn't use computers. I couldn't do 3D models that I'd been doing in the... So here's the problem. Be very careful about ink, your hand, the sweat from your hand on the page. So I'm trying to do a balance here where I need to do this little bit in here, so I've got to put my finger down, but I'm trying to put as little, because the page is buckling with the water, with the ink.
No, that was another thing I was going to ask as well. I've seen some.
So you see this is under my hand the whole time to stop the whole time I was drawing it, there's been a piece of paper under my hand.
Because I know some people will use gloves.
Yes.
And I know with me, I don't use gloves, and if I don't have a bit of paper, I'll just kind of try and be mindful of where I'm working and give a chance to dry.
Exactly.
But because I'm only really using markers myself.
Right.
So I've never used it, but I think I'd like to give it a shot one day and just experiment, because you do get that really nice variety of line work. We do have the thickness and thinness coming through, and I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And probably why Brendan wanted to get this done in such a way.
Yeah, I ran out of ink again, so I couldn't get the line thick the way I wanted. Yeah, I mean that's it's sort of like a homage to him, whichever way you like to pronounce it. I wanted to have him, honour him and sort of give him the old school stuff, And it was kind of a challenge. I'm one of these people, I love a challenge, so it was a challenge. So I was curious if I could do it again. So partly that. I've actually painted myself into a corner, because I usually start at the top and work down as best I can, and I'm always rotating the page, and it's something I miss. I was so happy when Photoshop allowed you to do an actual, to be able to rotate the image on the screen. I was so grateful when they brought that in.
Oh, what? So not just physically, rotate canvas. You can actually rotate as you work.
On Photoshop?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh.
there's a tool that allows you to rotate the entire canvas. And that's a recent thing, and I'm really grateful that they brought it in. They don't yet have it for Flash, and it drives me nuts. So I have a little workaround so that I can rotate the entire symbol that I'm working inside. I'm goofing up some of these lines. The thing with inking, it's a real, it really shows you how balanced you are when you're doing lines. If you're in a goofy frame of mind, or you're distracted, or you're not paying attention, you will say, I've goofed up that line, I'm not happy with it. You have to sort of be very zoned to do it comfortably.
I mean, in the amount of time that you've been doing this, I mean, you've obviously worked a style that you've got, and you've got an awareness of the nib itself.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that you've got ones that you've used for pretty much your entire career.
Yeah, this nib here is 30, older than 30. I had it when I was 18.
Yep.
These ones are new nibs, but I've had the holder for a while. But this brush here, I've at least had since I was 18. So, and it's hard to keep the point, but it's my favourite brush. But I'll do the inking. This is my heavy. I used to have another nib which I don't have anymore, but this one's a lot more flexible. I don't know if you can see the flex on that, but this one's a lot firmer.
Yep.
So I'm able to get a lot more of the heavy duty lines. So I'm going to be using this one because it will do a lot more of the stronger, bigger lines, the confident lines. So anything up close, I'm going to be using this guy, and anything detailed and further away, I'll be using the other one I showed you.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's kind of cool to see, because I think that's something I will need to learn for myself. And once again, I may be coming to go, hello.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah.
But
I think it's cool. I think more people, it's one of those one of those things that's good to know this skill, because on computers it's just like undo, undo, undo.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get away with stuff, but here you've got to make a choice. And the nice thing is, most of my artwork has all those pages I showed you before. Not one of them had whiteout on it. I don't usually use whiteout because I don't need to. I'm very careful with where I put my lines. I'm a bit wobbly right now, so I'm having trouble with this thing, but it's out of the crop, so
yep.
I'm not too fussed. That is not good.
It's kind of funny now. It's like the sound of the nib. I hear that and I'm like, ooh, metallic.
Yeah.
But
brings it home, huh?
I think that's what kind of scares me when I'm using it. It's like, you're going to put it through the paper almost. I think that's a fear I have.
And
so
you have to have a very delicate touch too.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to that.
I think it's once I play with it, I'll get used to it.
Or it might be really scary. I knew a guy, I shouldn't say his name, but I know a director, and he would use a pencil like, he'd hold it like this sort of thing, and he'd be drawing like this. And he basically pushed these lines into the page. So he tried using one of these nibs.
Oh,
and
jeez.
it drove him nuts. How could you? No way. So, yeah, he stuck with pencils and markers and stuff.
It's probably a wise choice.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, nobody showed you how to hold a pencil?
Yeah, I must admit, I do see people working like that, and I can't get my head around it. I really can't. I'm like, how do you... They probably aren't a drawer when they do use it like that. It's almost like a blunt instrument, how cavemen would draw on walls.
Yeah.
But
you just feel like nobody really sort of was around. This is the problem, is they're just left to their own devices. And of course the kid's going to make up anything. And I mean, how do they eat their meals?
I must admit, it's like, I think in primary school, there are examples where you'd see kids drawing chimneys, but they'd be on an angle.
Right.
And I'd be drawing it so straight up, and that's just how chimneys were. And I just didn't understand why people were like, don't you look at chimneys?
I know.
Don't you see
exactly.
how they are on a building?
Yeah.
Why are you drawing them at an angle for? It makes no sense. But
that's true.
yeah.
You got to look.
I know, you feel like a snob saying that stuff, but it's true. Draw the chimney correct.
Well, it's also in this work. If I didn't know how to draw a knuckle, for example, I wouldn't be able to ink a knuckle. And because I know anatomy, reasonably well. I'm not the best at it, but I know enough about it. I was able to do life drawing at the age of 15. You know, my first life drawing was at 15. And I'd done so much comic work by that stage that I was the only person who could actually draw the model inside the frame of the page. Everyone else was running out of paper. And so it's simply practice and observation.
It really is. I completely underestimated anatomy drawing. I mean, I didn't do the first one, probably was about 18, but you kind of learnt so much from that, and just the way the body moves. And yeah, of course, you can, you know, kind of work on that and change it to be more visually appealing, because, you know, even though it is the anatomy you're working with, you know, you're still going, it's not quite right for a dynamic look or you know, whatever. Yeah. So, but it gives you so much in just understanding movement, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, my first life drawing, the model came up. She was really sweet. And she said, that's not how my boob works. It doesn't go... I did it that way. She said, it curves that way. It's much more attractive. I said, yeah, it is, but I'm so used to drawing boobs that way. And she didn't realise this is my first life drawing, and I was wrong. She was right, you know, and I wish I'd been more mature to sort of like say, yeah, I'd never seen a boob before in real life. I was 15, for God's sake. And it's like, if only I had a little bit more confidence, I would have said, you know, you're right, and I'll fix it. But I was just too immature to sort of...
And depending on how much confidence you had, you might even go, well, I can get a better feel for it.
No. No, I'm very respectful.
Boring, not
That's right.
I was very grateful that I had the opportunity.
Life groping.
Yeah. Always respectful.
But, no, yeah, for myself, it was good.
The worst thing for me with life drawing was I had this very obnoxious person that I tried to avoid in the trams, and he would get my life drawings and go, oh, let me have a look at your life drawings. And he would open in a full tram my portfolio and go through all of the life drawings and go, oh man, if I was doing this, I wouldn't be drawing, I'd be looking, and you say all this stuff. And it was so mortifyingly embarrassing, because I'd never thought of it that way. For me, it was a challenge, it was hard, and a craft, and I needed to learn it. And I'd never thought of it that way until he did that. And the look I was getting from all the people in the tram, they just thought I was some sort of pervert.
Oh no, isn't it something? Yeah.
And it actually horrified me. Firstly, that they'd think that, and secondly, that he would say what he was saying at all, because it hadn't occurred to me. And just the reaction I was getting was mortifying. And I was a really shy kid too, so it just did a number on me.
No.
I don't want to do that bit till I can rotate the whole page, so I'm waiting. Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say, no, I was very much the same mindset. You know, you kind of doing it, you know, it's a very different thing. It's like completely separate, you know. But it's nice. It's nice seeing this kind of in action.
Yeah, it's. I'm going to probably move on to something else, I think, because I'm worried I'm going to hit something that's not dry yet.
Do you find that without the drying aspect being a part of it, that there are some times you just got to move on from one page and go to another one?
I try not to leave things. If I haven't drawn in a background, because backgrounds are my weak point. If I haven't drawn a background, I probably will struggle over it for the rest. If I don't get it right, I'm going to struggle over it. And
you try not to avoid it, rather get it out of the way.
Yeah, I force myself to get the background sorted out, because I'm not big on perspective. I don't like it. Which is why I didn't work in that department. I worked in the character department. I like things that are alive.
Yeah, I could never be an architect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why in Zooniverse I've been actually building 3D models, because I want to make sure that all these shapes... I'm going to tackle this monster, I think. Just going to remember. It's been a while since I drew this.
When working with...
See how loose these lines are, by the way?
Yeah.
That's the thing about inking, is you've got to make choices. And so it's been a week since I drew this, and I've forgotten where I was meant to go. So I'm guessing right now that I'm hoping that I'm following the right direction that I was setting out when I did the sketch. Back to the ink.
Now you're using the same pens, but the weight you've given them is all dependent on, you know, just how
close they are.
Yeah, and like how hard you're going in.
Yeah, this guy's really close, so I'm trying to get it fairly thick. And what's going to happen is when I get into this guy, and so I'm sort of working my way in, then I'll be using the see, look, there you go, because I wasn't paying attention. So that will be a whiteout job for the first time. But that's
We caught it here first.
yeah. Oh, I did do them. There's one comic where I actually spilt ink over the whole thing, and I had to go back and. But that's why I tend to work in a corner and sort of work my. See, as you can see, I was trying to work on that corner.
Yep.
And in doing that, I wasn't paying attention, and I goofed there. So I'm trying to use the reflection to tell me when everything's ready. But that's fixable. And this arc, here's the problem: to get that line correct, I have to work over the whole thing just to get that line right.
Yep.
So I'm waiting for things down here to dry.
Yeah, because that's going to be a more natural movement with your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm judging what to start on according to what's dry and which part of the stroke I can do. Which again is why I appreciated Photoshop doing the rotation tool. Very good. I wish they'd do it for Flash, but yes.
Adobe, take note.
There are things. There's things in Flash. Things in Flash they could have fixed a long time ago that they've never bothered to fix. Like presets changing each time you get on it.
As long as they haven't fixed them and not notified anyone, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
But I since Flash, early days of Flash, I've been waiting for them to fix certain things they've never fixed.
Because they used to be like Macromedia.
Yes, right. I was working on it as Macromedia. Brush. Brush. Now here I'm a bit lost. I don't quite know where I went. I think that's my line there. It's not. If it's fresh in my head, I'll be good. But it's been a while.
Do you?
But I can use that.
You'd have fairly tight pencil work, I imagine.
No, it's pretty loose.
Yeah. Well, no, because I know it'll depend on what I've drawn. Just with my experience, it's almost like some things will be tighter than others, but I think it just depends on how sure I am about what I'm drawing.
Correct.
So yeah, it's nice seeing the transition. I mean,
this guy's tight. This guy's loose, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so this guy, I know exactly where I'm going to go, but I'm not going to tackle him until
he's a big part of the page.
I need to rotate a lot to do him, and I don't want to. I've even fudged there. Even smudged that one. So that gives you some idea at least. Now what I'll try and do, I'd like to get his outline done before I go in with the finer pen. Right, let's keep doing this guy. We can work up here. Sorry, you're asking what you're saying.
Oh, I'm just looking at this point.
Okay.
No.
Ran out of ink. Yeah, I'm trying to work up to a brush. I should have thought of that. I should have had some different things done. Yeah, I didn't even think of it. It's one of the things you don't realise till you get there. And the thing I love about this part of the process is it's all about choices. To me, that's what lines represent choice, and especially in the messy sort of parts of this guy. And whatever you choose, that's what you commit to. And I love that process. I love, there's a big there's a mess of lines, and I've got to choose the right one and do it in the right way to get the energy across and the idea. And the inking for me is the energy part. The sketching is just figuring it out.
Yep.
The inking is the commit when you commit to things, and I really love that.
And this is a great argument for anyone who's watched Chasing Amy. You're not just a tracer. I think an inker is a lot more when it comes to doing it, because I think that was a big.
You can
joke.
make or break,
Yeah, I mean that's just it, and you can see one set of inks on one set of pencils and compare, and you really can see a difference.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of going over the lines. You are putting so much more on there. Like even as the character, I think it's Banky in the movie where he's trying to get his point across that you're adding depth, you're adding all this kind of thing. You're not just going over someone else's lines.
Which movie?
It's called Chasing Amy. It's
I've heard of it.
Jay and Silent Bob are in it. It's a Kevin Smith movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so you've got Holden McNeil and Banky Edwards, but and it kind of they delve into that a little bit at the start of the film. So you've got just some guy coming in, but it's worthwhile just for that little speech.
Right.
So
About committing with the ink.
yeah, exactly. So it's good, and I mean they kind of play with that, have a bit of light
That's
humour
cool.
with it,
Yeah.
but yeah, you get the same pencils to 5 different inkers, and you get 5 different results.
I agree. You will. Now, is it dry down here?
You could put some shadow on that hand, couldn't you?
This one down here?
Big hand. Yeah.
Actually, I'm aiming for him to do the brush.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's what I'm looking for. So
Fun.
I think I'm good. It's hard because the lighting. That's still wet. I think I'm good. The lighting's different to how I normally have it, so I think that's good. All right, so I just want to make sure I've got enough detail in there. What I need to do at this point is check. I have to go back to the old artwork and just double check how I was doing his technique. All right, so what I'm looking for is this shot here. And see how the brush is just dabs?
Yep.
That's kind of something I love to do. But this is the creature here. So what I'm looking for is how I handled his scaling over the shoulder. So I'm just double checking.
Just for consistency.
Yeah, exactly. So I now have had a look at that. I'm pretty confident I can keep going. I'll keep going with this nib for now. All dry. Right, okay. Yeah, it's a really delicate operation because if you're not paying attention, you can really split, make a big mess.
I'll bring this over because we moved it.
Oh yeah, I nudged it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Try and keep that as yeah.
Now I forgot what I was doing in here. I think there's a neck in there, and then there's all sorts of detail going on in here that I'm not sure about how I was going to do that. So I'm going to put some lines in just to remind me, and we're going to go to brush just because it's time. This is probably a little early for me, but again, I was using brush since I was 14, so I'm
Well
pretty
versed.
Huh?
Well versed.
Yeah. It's not something that I actually enjoy working with brush. If you've never used one before, it is genuinely frightening, and it doesn't go where you want it to go. And but this is a sign writer's brush. I think I'd mentioned it in the class. But the sign writer's brushes are a little long, and which is good. You need that sort of extra length, and it just helps. I'm sort of going a bit all over the place because I don't really have a plan at this point. I'm just it's one of the creatures. What I'm doing is I'm sort of feeling the level of darkness, how much to do. So at the moment I'm just sort of having a feel for it, just putting enough in just to get a sense of whether it's picking up everything. Has enough, not enough, too much. So normally I'd know more of what I'm doing. This goes off the page, but the page is actually needs a bit more width anyway.
Yeah.
I do know that this is going to be like that. All right, so let's give you some inking with that, and then I might go in with the smaller pen and just show you some of that.
Yeah.
Don't like to leave too much ink on this guy, so I will.
Do you have any do's or don'ts when cooking with inks?
No, I actually like, as you know from the class, I like making a big mess sometimes, just working with that. So the thing I like about ink is it can actually give you quite a lot of experimentation. This is not an experimental project.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I'm doing those crazy things. But yeah, you don't want to be too... But I almost think there's no rules. It's
Apart
just
from making sure you're filling the pot without the art close by.
yes. Yes.
The
No,
golden rule.
Yeah. But I definitely this one's going to be a little trickier because this nib, sometimes you have to test it to get it going. You have to sort of kickstart it. All right, so I'm going to try and not smudge anything, and I'm going to attempt to work on this guy now.
So you'd work fairly lightly because there'd be smaller lines.
Yeah, this is a really delicate nib. I'll give you a crack at it in a little bit. Did we do any nib stuff?
I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was at least one class we did.
Yeah. And we use these nibs, or did you bring your own? I can't remember now.
I don't think I brought my own.
No,
Did we give you a mix too?
I can't remember that we did that. That's why I'm asking, because I don't think I have enough nibs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought there was definitely ink.
There was ink.
Yeah. Oh, but there may not have been nibs. We may have
Yeah,
been
I don't think
using
we did
different-
nibs.
Yeah, just the ribbons.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have enough money to buy everybody nibs, and
Yeah, I was thinking.
I don't even know if they're available anymore.
No.
They're Hunt 108. So what I'm using at the moment is a Hunt 108. And
See, I've got a couple of them, but I just haven't used them. So just kind of in a drawer with some ink, waiting for me to have the courage.
Do you have to boil them? Like, can you
Yeah, I
still
do.
boil
I do.
them?
Yeah.
You
So
have to
the-
kind of break them in because
Hmm.
they're always coated in like a
They have a resin, yeah.
protection for storage or whatever. And for it.
Oh,
So
okay.
You have to boil that off,
to get that off.
and then it's good to go. And but what I do, just because I don't want to poison anything, is I have put boiling water into a jar or something that I'm not going to ever use for food or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll have the nibs in there. I'll pour the boiling water in there, and then let it sit until you can touch it. Yeah, not that long necessarily, but just long enough to be able to touch it.
Yeah, most nibs are really stiff and hard to use because they're made for writing.
Mm.
and
Yeah.
they're made for
Yeah, for like
drawing.
calligraphy.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Quite nice. And just crazy tip on those nibs and they're really short.
So this is this nib to give you. So you've now got footage of everything I've shown you basically.
Yeah.
And as I said, this was always my favourite part because the thing I love about it is a moment of truth, and you're on that tightrope and you're walking across an abyss, and if you don't get it right, it's going to show, and if you do get it right, you're basically committing all the time. And I love that process of sort of going through a committal with a line, and what you have is what you keep, and you just got to get more confident.
Yep.
And if you're not confident, it's going to show. And that's why I like that process. See, normally I draw this line in, but I have to rotate the paper around, and I'm a little concerned about doing that.
Mm.
I think this is dry. Because I like to define the thing in front first, so I'll attempt to do this guy. Because I'm not feeling super confident about him. Because it's something I really need to be focused on to do it properly.
And you've got to have a certain paper to use when doing this, don't you? You can't just use your
Yeah.
standard.
The American paper I hate. I hate the traditional American comic paper.
Mm-hmm.
Do not like. This is a German paper that I told you was sitting in storage in somebody's garage for the last 15 years or so, or 10 years. And it's the paper that I bought when I was doing Zooniverse to use, and it's well over 30 years old, this paper. It's a bit musty smelling, but it's all I got. Can't afford to get anything else. It's kept well, yeah. I think it's acid free, so that's why it's lasting so well. And it even has, some of it has water damage. It's a little harder, a little stiffer and crispy. But it's lasted all this time. Often too, this is a confidence thing, a little trick.
Yep.
If you're doing delicate inking in certain areas, turn your page upside down and you'll feel, especially around eyes and things you might be uncomfortable with, turn the page upside down and then it just becomes lines. It stops being something important.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, because often I'll work upside down, because then I'm just enjoying the lines for the line's sake. And this is one of those things in this modern age where everything happens instantly, and nobody has time, and everyone's multitasking, and they're on YouTube and Twitter and lots of stuff. In this time, it's kind of good to have a discipline like this where you can just zone out and just be part of a moment, rather than you have to be very, very focused to do it.
Enjoy taking the time.
Yeah, it's a journey thing, where you're sort of enjoying the journey rather than the destination. And this is all the fiddly bits all around the fingers and stuff. And that's about it, really. So unless you want to just keep filming, I've kind of showed you everything I can show you.
Yeah. We'll let you finish that hand.
Oi! Yes. Huh? Yeah. Hang on. And I'm one of these people, for some strange reason, I have no problem with pressure, and sort of, I have no problem being watched when I work. I have no problem. There's something strange. Most artists hate it, but I'm quite comfortable being. In fact, I appreciate an audience, because it's such a solitary little thing to do that sometimes it's nice to sort of, show people how it's done. So I have no problem showing people.
Well, if that isn't a lead in to us thanking you for taking the time once again to not only talk to us but to go through and show us this process. Thank you again.
I appreciate it.
And
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, big thank you for letting us come into your house today and
Pleasure.
stop you working. So where could people find you if they want to get in contact with you?
We've got our own website, which is zunitunes.com. So
Yep.
Zunitunes. We also have stuff on Facebook. We have Zuniverse Comic, and that's on Facebook. You just Google my name. It's an FIL. Just get that right, and you'll Google my name. You'll see stuff.
Yeah, we'll have details down the bottom of the screen here as well. So for those who aren't listening to what I'm saying, you can see it visually. So that's what it's all about. But thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
And it's been a pleasure. So
always.
all the best.
See you soon.